Hey there, and welcome to this explainer. Today we are unlocking the door to something that honestly, almost all of us struggle with, and that's tying our deepest self-worth to external factors. It's a totally universal trap to look outside of ourselves for value, but today we're going to explore exactly what the experts say about how to break out of it for good.
Are you seeking approval or just attention? Really, take a second to ask yourself that. It's a subtle but absolutely massive psychological distinction from trauma expert Tim Fletcher. And honestly, unpacking this is going to completely reframe how you look at your own behavior.
Okay, so let's look at our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to quickly hit the validation prison, childhood roots and wounds, losing your authentic self, 4 steps to self-worth, and finally, becoming your own validator. Let's get right into it.
Section 1. The validation prison. The unconscious traps of seeking.
So what's really fascinating here is how Tim Fletcher separates these two distinct survival mechanisms. Approval seeking is basically an internal cry saying, I need you to like and respect me. Attention seeking, on the other hand, is just saying, I just need you to see me. Fletcher uses this really incredible anecdote of a girl who grows up without feeling loved, but she learns pretty early on that she gets this immense attention from men by flirting. It feels like power, right? But eventually it hits her that they don't actually see her. They're just seeing a fantasy. So she decides to stop. But when she stops, the sheer loneliness of being completely invisible just comes flooding back. She hates the flirting, but the emptiness of having zero attention is just unbearable, so she goes right back to it. It literally becomes her adult prison.
And this beautifully structures the different wings of that prison. Tam Carr actually outlines 5 specific categories of validation we fall into. We've got romantic, which is seeking your worth through dating. Social media, the endless chase for likes and followers. Community, which is desiring popularity, just trying to fit in. Familial, where you're bending over backwards, totally crossing your own boundaries just to make your family proud. And academic, attaching your entire self-worth to your grades or achievements. As we run through these, I want you to be really honest with yourself. Which of these traps do you fall into the most? Because recognizing your specific cell is absolutely the first step to getting out.
Moving on to Section 2, childhood roots and wounds. Let's look at where this need actually comes from.
Look at how these wounds actually originate. When children experience emotionally unavailable parents or just a lack of healthy validation, they adapt. That's what kids do. Sometimes they're forced into the invisible child rule, where they learn to make absolutely zero demands just to survive. Or they get pushed into the perfect doll expectation, where love is 100% conditional on their achievements or how they look. Aaron Doughty explains that this emotional neglect creates what he calls the abandonment wound. Kids literally learn to suppress their authentic needs just to appease the adults around them. Author Jay Shetty shared this deeply surprising anecdote about his own life that brilliantly illustrates how incredibly complex these roots can be. Because he was actually raised by a super loving, empathetic mother. He didn't lack love at home at all. But when he went to an all-boys high school, the environment totally shifted. To fit in there, he felt like he had to trade his natural empathy and compassion for what he calls his man card. He started performing this totally toxic choreography of hyper-competitiveness, playing rugby, all just to win male validation. He was basically performing an identity that wasn't authentically his, purely to be seen as strong.
So the crucial takeaway here is this profound realization from Aaron Doughty. The abandonment wound isn't actually just about someone leaving you. It's the act of abandoning your authentic self, your desires and your boundaries, because you have a deep-seated fear that others will abandon you. We bend over backwards. We become chronic people pleasers because we are utterly terrified of the emptiness of being left behind. In trying to keep other people, we basically abandon ourselves.
Section 3. Losing your authentic self. The really devastating cost of constantly pleasing others.
Tam Carr warns that creating a massive gap between these two selves is incredibly dangerous. We curate this watered-down, perfectly polite public self so nobody disagrees with us. But it ends up being completely disconnected from our private self, our actual authentic thoughts and boundaries. Living in that gap requires a daily performance. And let me tell you, it leads to immense anxiety, sheer exhaustion, and eventually the terrifying inability to actually know who you even are anymore.
The channel Einzelganger highlighted this incredibly powerful quote from Jim Carrey. He said, "Your need for acceptance can make you invisible in this world." Think about that. It's a brutal irony. We conform to appease others because we desperately want to be seen and loved. But by doing so, we actually erase our own unique identity. We literally make ourselves totally invisible.
And that brings us to this ultimate paradox, also from Einzelganger. People are actually naturally drawn to authentic individuals who genuinely don't care about approval, way more than those desperately clinging to it. When you're unapologetically yourself, just moving freely, people are magnetically attracted to you. But when your primary goal is to desperately appease them, it actually pushes them away. Crazy, right?
All right, Section 4, 4 steps to self-worth. Let's talk about escaping the prison.
I absolutely love this metaphor from Diogen. Think of your self-worth as a foundational inner house. It's built entirely on who you are. It's capable of weathering unpredictable life storms, and it's completely independent of external self-esteem or how well you perform at work or in life. And here's the harsh but totally necessary truth. No job, no relationship, and no therapist can magically build this foundation for you. You've got to lay the bricks yourself. So to lay those bricks, Diogen suggests a systematic 4-step framework. Step 1 is self-acceptance, just observing your flaws with pure neutrality, no judgment, just observation. Step 2 is self-trust, which simply means actually keeping those small promises you make to yourself. Step 3 is getting uncomfortable, stepping outside that safety zone. But I really want to highlight step 4 here, the separation of tasks. This concept is so freeing. You need to recognize what is actually out of your control. How someone perceives you, that is their task. Your task is just acting with integrity. We have to stop trying to do other people's tasks for them.
Okay, so how do we physically do this? Tam Carr suggests rewiring your self-schema, which is your core self-image, by actively proving your negative beliefs wrong. For example, if you deeply believe you're unattractive, don't just hide away in your room. Actively experiment with your style. Do a solo photo shoot. Try new things. You have to physically prove to your brain that your old insecure self-image is literally false. You need to gather real-world evidence against your own insecurities.
And finally, Section 5. Becoming your own validator. Cultivating that internal support.
Let's run through some highly actionable steps here, derived from both Tam Carr and Aaron Doughty. First up, implement a hard 30-day validation detox. No flirting, no dating apps, just genuinely learning to love your own solitude. Next, realize that you need high standards for your friendships, not just your romantic partners. Shift your core values from seeking significance to seeking authenticity. And lastly, just stop giving your precious energy to temporary judgments from others. Protecting your peace sometimes means happily, intentionally choosing to be alone.
I also really want to emphasize this completely unique tip from Tam Carr, the video journal technique. The next time you are triggered or upset, before you instantly pick up the phone to call a friend for that validation fix, hit record on your phone instead. Just record a raw video of yourself talking through your emotions. Then, think about what you wish a good friend would say to you right then, and say it directly to yourself. Give yourself the exact validation and grace that you're seeking externally. It's an absolute game changer.
I want to leave you with this final, really provocative thought from Tam Carr. If today was the very first day of your life, whose approval would you actually need? You don't have to carry the baggage of your past selves into today. You have the power to validate yourself right now. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep building that inner house, and I'll catch you on the next one.